Hey y'all, it's Laura. Welcome back to a Cocoa Vanilla video. This time we are using the Heart and Home collection, which is the new one from Cocoa Vanilla, and I am loving the color scheme in this one. It's so soft and lovely that it's really useful for any season, even though it has these beautiful autumn leaves on it and these kind of autumnal family sort of gratitude themes. It really is useful for any kind of photos that you have, and I'm going to prove that because we are going to be scrapping some photos that were actually taken in May, so in the spring here in North America, and the photos we're scrapping are of my brick. So I attended the University of Mississippi, which is a fairly large university and one of the two biggest universities in the state, and I got to leave a brick in the walking path in the middle of campus when I left. So we all got to have that option when you graduate to purchase this brick and have your name inscribed on it and a message of some sort. And this was something that I discovered while walking around on campus, I think the first or second day, and thought was really cool and was looking forward to picking out a message that kind of illustrated my thoughts on this process, because going back to school was a big change for me. It was a huge decision and a lot of work. It was a lot of work, but it was at a time that I think I really needed the win. I needed to be able to finish something on my own and kind of restore my own confidence, as well as start planning for the future for myself and my family. And so this brick is something that's very special to me that I'm really glad that I was able to be a part of and do. So for this layout, I'm going to stick to a fairly simple vertical design. I've got this beautiful green in the background, which I really think helps the red of the bricks pop. And then I have this beautiful white right behind my photos that's going to help draw your attention into the photos and make sure they are the focus of the layout. That's always my intention when I scrap, is to make the photos the focus. I did add some beautiful wood grain in these strips alongside of my vertical column, and this is a very simple background design. It's something that I do fairly often. I'm a big fan of the vertical design, and I will go ahead and trim off the little bit of edges that were a little bit too long, but in the end, this is the basic background. What I want to show you is that a basic background doesn't have to mean a super simple layout. It doesn't have to mean that they all look the same. I've done a lot of different vertical designs over the years, and I try to find new ways to mix it up and play with the design to make each one a little bit different. And it comes down to the details to make that happen. Now for this layout, I have two horizontal or landscape photos, and these photos are 3x4. One is of the larger grouping of bricks, so it's essentially, there's a giant class for 2023, and so I kind of stepped back and caught probably the first half of the bricks, and then I went in and stood right over my brick and got a picture directly of my brick so you could read it. And I really am so excited to think about that being there forever. I mean, maybe not forever, but it'll be there for a good long time. And I love the idea that I've left my mark on the school that has left such an indelible mark on me. And so that was just a really important moment to capture. So I am using up a lot of scraps on this layout. I had used this beautiful navy paper with the leaves on a previous layout and decided to cut it up into strips so that I could mat my photos with it. This is a little trick that I use when I'm either short on paper or there's a specific paper that I want to use, but maybe I don't have very much of it. I definitely don't have enough to mat two photos with it. So I will go ahead and cut it up into strips. That way I can stretch it a little bit longer and use it to fill in the outside edge of my photos rather than completely back the photos. Now this beautiful little frame, I wanted to get onto the layout, but I wasn't sure yet how I was going to make that happen. So I'm going to see me kind of fuss around with a little bit and try to figure out how to use it. One of the fun things about a vertical design for me is I am a reader, and so my mind automatically puts things in a book perspective. I like to start at the top and work my way down. I don't know if you've noticed that about my scrapbooking, but I do have a tendency to work at the top and then work my way down. And with a vertical, that's a very natural energy and way to move with the design is to start at the top and work my way down. So it's been one of those learning techniques, learning things about yourself and your preferred style that I think really helps you hone in on that style and to refine that style and to make it your own, is to kind of notice those little tendencies about yourself and the way that you scrap and how certain things come together for you, what things are important to you, and where you start and end a layout can sometimes tell you quite a bit about your scrapping style and help you kind of refine it a little bit more. One of the things that I learned about myself over the years in scrapping, I've been scrapping for well over 20 years now, is that I like to use multiple photos. I really enjoy having multiple photos grouped together on a layout. And I'm not sure what exactly is that tendency, if it's just from a habit of I take a ton of photos, I'm not sure, but it is something that I have noticed about myself and kind of, taking that note, saying, oh, okay, I do like scrapping with multiple photos. So finding designs and finding styles and techniques that really work well with multiple photos is something that I have paid a lot of attention to, put a lot of time into, because I want to foster the natural tendencies in my creating just a little bit more. That's what I want to push myself to keep going further with. Find the things you love and then keep going with it, pushing it to the next level. That's very much part of my creative process. Now, as you can see, I've pulled together my little embellishment tray here. I have some fussy cut vellum florals that I was trying at first, but they really aren't popping quite enough on this background because it is a pattern paper background. On a white background, those vellum flowers will pop beautifully, which you will see in an upcoming layout later this month because I've already scrapped that one. I just haven't done the voiceover for it yet, but it is beautiful and it is full of those vellum flowers on a white background and it is gorgeous. They look so good on a white background. They kind of don't stand out as much on a darker background, but that may be something you're going for. If you're not wanting to use bright, vivid colors, you have these vellum flowers as an option to have a softer look. And that's what I was talking about earlier with how versatile this collection is. There is such beautiful color tones in it, and they can really be used for any photos that have sort of a similar color scheme. They would work. The strong themes in these collections really are flexible. So even though, this has kind of an autumnal theme to it, a family and gratefulness theme that I think lines up pretty well with the American Thanksgiving, but it also works really well with that time of year of just spending a lot of time with family. We've got Christmas coming up, and we have a lot of events in between now and Christmas where you're spending a lot of time with family, and I think that this collection just works so beautifully for that. Now, these word titles are perfect. I love them. They are gold foil. They stand out beautifully amidst this soft sort of muted background. And I really, really love this gold. This shade of gold is perfection for this collection. And so this lovely Thankful is just the perfect accent title to finish off that spot. Look how perfectly it fits around that photo. I was beyond excited at how lovely that looks, how beautifully it fit just there. I love when that comes together because I don't plan much. I am not the type of scrapbooker that plans much of anything, and so you best believe I definitely did not plan that aspect as well. Now you're going to see this little bit of me fussy cutting off the white edge of this floral cluster. I'm not going to take off the entire white edge. With clusters, I do like having a very thin white line around them, but I like to have a more refined line there. I don't want it to stand out so much that it takes attention away from the photos, and I think with a heavy thick line around the outside, it does. Now, if you're using these embellishments for, say, cards or a project that doesn't have photos, I think having that white edge is a nice thing because you do want them to kind of be the focus. Quite often you're going to use those floral clusters around your sentiment and you want them to stand out. They essentially are the focal image. And so there is a useful nature to having that thick white line sometimes, but I rarely make cards. I usually do scrapbook pages, and so for me, I don't want as much of the white line, but this worked out really well just to kind of thin it out just a bit. Now I'm going to finish up my embellishing with some minor bits and pieces. I want to bring in some stickers from the sticker sheet, specifically that little tab that says noted, which adds a little bit more of that kind of soft green. It's kind of a teal color, but it's really soft, or like sage maybe, that's in that background. So it's not teal, but it's not like green green. It's kind of in between, but it's a very soft color of green, and I really, really like that shade of green. The shade of green I'm not a huge fan of is like a neon green, but there are times when I like that shade too, and I think it looks really, really good with a nice bright pink and with a little bit of purple. So there is a time and a place where I use every color, and green is certainly one of those colors that I've had to come around to. But finding ways to use it, I think, that really appeal to me, and with other colors that appeal to me, certainly makes it easier to use. I have in the past done a fully green, bright green layout, and it was a little painful to make at the time, but the finished product was so fun. Finishing this one up with some scattering and splattering. For my scattering, I am using these teeny tiny little florals that I have fussy cut from the patterned papers. Yes, I fussy cut all of the florals. And even those little bitty tiny ones, because they make perfect scattering bits to add little bits of detail around this layout. And this, for me, is where I shine. This is the part of the scrapping process that I love more than any other. Adding in those fine details that make the biggest difference on a layout. And for me, this is it. These tiny little fussy cut florals, my outlining, little faux stitching marks, those little details all add up to take a layout from lovely to just really incredible, really fun, and really polished. And for me, that's such a huge difference on a layout. So I've added 3 little word phrases down here at the bottom. I'm going to put my journaling up in that little frame at the top right. And so I didn't need a journaling spot, but I really like the idea of having these little strips at the bottom. Plus these word phrases kind of fit the mood of this layout perfectly. And I was really excited about that. Bringing in some Nuvo drops, I started to grab for my gold because that is kind of my go-to color with Nuvo, and it's automatic to grab for it. But I decided before I added those Nuvo drops, I wanted to come in with some white and add some little tiny details to these wood grain strips. And this is for me, the pinnacle of the layout. This is the detail that made this specific layout so special and so unique and just so fun to make. These tiny little Nuvo drops going up those little white spots going up the wood grain just gives it such a nice finish, polished look, and I really, really love the way that is. So the white is a little bit harder to squeeze, so you'll see me kind of swirling at the top. If your Nuvo is a little bit cold, especially, mine is, because the weather has turned here in Tennessee, and all of a sudden it is quite autumn. It is very much a fall time of year right now. And so all of my Nuvo are a little bit cold, and you can warm them up in your hands if your hands are warm, but mine are not. The last touches on this one are going to be some beautiful little puffy hearts. Absolutely love these. I thought this was a nice option to add as a less papery option. I like to have something on the layout that isn't paper, and these little puffy hearts were just the right thing to add without adding too much bulk to the layout, but gave it a little bit more detail, a little bit more interest on the page. And then for my splattering, I always do splattering in 2 levels. I have a controlled splatter with this gold Nuvo, just dotting it around the clusters, and then I'll come in with some gold ink spray, which I have some Heidi Swap Color Shine that my wonderful friend Kim sent to me, and I am so excited to have this bottle. It beautifully accents the background and finishes it off. Be sure to check out the blog at cocovanilla.com.au, and until next time, bye y'all.